Today, we're going to explore an issue that was really a part of normal business operations, and that is the advent of a petty cash fund within the operations of a business organization. It was once very common, but less and less businesses are relying on the use of a petty cash fund. But that doesn't mean that there still isn't a place for it, because like it or not, in day-to-day operations, every now and then, something happens where there's a need for an immediate cash payment. And so let's just explore quickly in this little 15-minute session what it is to have a petty cash fund. So today, we just pose ourselves with the question, what is a petty cash fund? And the idea is that you have a place within the business organization where a small amount of cash, not a large amount of cash, is stored in a locked drawer or a locked box, and this is used to pay minor expenses. Things like when a delivery is made by Canada Post, there's duty, they can't deliver it unless they are paid cash on the spot and an exact change for that delivery. This does happen from time to time in business operations and is an appropriate use of a petty cash fund. So there's periodic reconciliations done. And the idea is that you start off with a fund, a petty cash box. Let us say that you decide it's $100. And so you write a check to an employee who cashes that check, brings the cash into the office. And so it goes into the petty cash box. And then from there, every time there's a cash expense, you take money out of the cash box and you pay the expense. And usually it involves having a petty cash box, which you can still buy commonly in office stationery stores such as Staples, in which you are able to store the cash and have it locked. Now, the problem with the petty cash fund is that it's a highly visible task. Whoever is responsible for it really is openly communicating their level of skill as well as their integrity. So we have to be very much aware of that. For example, a petty cash box is not a ATM dispensing cash when people need it. No, it's for reimbursement of legitimate expenses. If you fall in a trap, I need to borrow $20 from the petty cash, someone writes an IOU, they put it in the box. Soon you get into a trap where there's no money in the petty cash box, it's just nothing but IOUs, and now the custodian, the person responsible for the petty cash, has to go around and try and collect money, which is never a fun operation. It is not an ATM machine and should never be used in this way. So the classic system was called an imprest fund, the idea being that you start with a float that goes into the petty cash box. The record is kept every time money is taken out of the box. Usually a receipt goes in the box instead of the cash that's removed. And the two should continuously balance. So if you have a petty cash fund of $100, you should have cash and expenses that add to that $100 at any given time. When the time comes that the petty cash box is filled with nothing but receipts, then we need to issue a check that replenishes the petty cash fund and puts cash back into the account. And so what happens is the receipts are in the box, are taken, attached to the check that replenishes it, and serves as backup to that check. It's a really good idea to, as well as having a petty cash box, is to buy a pad of petty cash vouchers. Again, these are readily available from stationery stores. And sometimes, like a parking meter, you just can't get a receipt, but it's still a legitimate expense. So someone takes $2 out of the petty cash box, they need to go downtown to make a deposit, a legitimate business trip. And it's money that goes into the meter. So instead, you can fill out this petty cash voucher, the employee signs for it, the custodian signs for it, and that receipt goes into the petty cash fund. So to start a petty cash fund, you write a check to the custodian, to their name, they cash the check, and then they take that money and they place it into the petty cash box. And the journal entry, please excuse my little error here. We wrote a check for $100 to start the fund. And so the journal entry will be credited to the bank, $100, and you will set up a new account, an asset account that's a companion account to the cash account called petty cash fund, and it'll have $100. So in one case, you're increasing an asset, the petty cash fund, and you're decreasing an asset, which is the bank. It's a good idea to have a petty cash journal in which you're basically creating a log, and with Excel, this is really easy to do. And you're keeping track of what the expenses were that were paid out of the petty cash fund. In this case, we can see that there were $75 worth of expenses and there was a shortage. Sometimes a mistake is made, legitimate mistake in giving change. These things do happen. And so then we have the journal approved, and then we'll write a check for $76 to replenish the petty cash fund. We'll do that as a check for $75, and the allocation of the entry will be $1 will go to the cash short expense, and that's the expense. That's an increase of an expense account. $12.50 will go to a postage expense, just like it's set out in the journal, which is an increase of an expense account. Delivery, $35. And sometimes people will pay wages out of the petty cash fund, in which case this would be casual wage expense. And we had some travel expenses, $27.60 into balancing entry. Of course, we're writing a check which comes out of the bank account, decreases an asset, that's $76. And so really simply put, that's how we go about not only starting a petty cash fund, but replenishing it. It's a legitimate business tool and one that still has a place, though really it's not as common as it once was. It's not as common as it once was. And anyone taking on this responsibility as custodian needs to really remember it's really visible. You need to conduct yourself in a way that clearly you're communicating control, integrity, and taking responsibility for this this task that's so visible to everyone in your workplace. Anyways, that's the end of the question. How do you run a petty cash fund? And keep those questions coming. I'm always happy to do one of these little podcasts that really speak to the issue. Have a great day.